Hello everyone, today's video is another talk on Ir35. Specifically another celebrity that has done the rounds, been in the courts and has won against HMRC in the courts on whether or not they are caught with the Ir35 legislation. So this particular celebrity is Kay Adams. You may know her from Loose Women fame, her work on the TV, but this specific case that was taken with HMRC to court was about her radio activities. Now, specifically, she had a limited company. She contracted with the BBC for radio programs. And it was that arrangement that HMRC basically took her to court. And in the first tribunal, she won the case. So when you have these IR35 challenges, what basically happens, the framing of this from an analysis legally, is that what you have to do is have a look at the actual terms of the contract between the intermediary and the end client. So in other words, you'd have a look at the contract that Kay Adams's company had with the BBC, see what that says. Then you look at the hypothetical contract that would have existed had she as an individual engaged with the BBC. And then thirdly, you say, well, would that hypothetical contract be one of employment or not? So they're the three strands that you need to approach legally when looking at these. And basically, the first tier tribunal said when they applied all of those tests that the end result was that she was not caught by the IR35 legislation, and she was deemed to be in business on her own account and self-employed, and didn't have to pay the IR35 tax, which is, as you know, aims to restate remuneration for the individual as if they had have been a employee, so subject to employment taxes instead of dividends and national insurance and all that kind of thing. So HMRC predictably appealed the decision to the courts, and the case went to the Upper Tribunal. So the Upper Tribunal, they said, okay, let's look at the type of situations that you would expect to see in determining whether someone is employed or self-employed. And the first one is mutuality of obligation. So mutuality of obligation is where the end client is obliged to give the worker some work, and the worker is obliged to do it, basically. And in that strand, they said, actually, yes, that did exist. So there was this mutuality of obligation there. But then the next test, one of what we call a degree of control, well, it was found that actually the BBC didn't have much control over her radio content at all. It had no real control over when, where, or how she put together those radio programs. She used to write her own scripts, decide on guests, various things. Yes, the BBC had ultimate editorial control, but she was pretty much free to do what she wanted with those programs, subject to a minimum commitment of 150 shows that she was contracted for. So on that test of degree of control, it was found that that was not sufficient from the BBC. So when it is sufficient, that points to employment. When it's not sufficient, points to self-employment. So the other test was she in business on her own account? And the Upper Tribunal said, actually, yes, she was. So of those three tests, mutuality of obligation, degree of control, and being in business on your own account, two of those she passed, as it were, and the first one, mutuality of obligation, she didn't. But in balance, the Upper Tribunal said she's not caught by IR35. She is genuinely self-employed. Yes, she uses a limited company. That's the vehicle through which she operates a business, but that's fine. She should not be caught by the IR35 legislation. So another interesting legal battle and IR35. Remember that the rules are changing from April this year in terms of the risk. The risk is being put on the end client for many businesses. So if the worker the engager, as it were, has got it wrong, and they are employee as opposed to self-employed, then what will happen is that the extra taxes will be placed on the end customer, not the individual. So that is a bit of a game changer. But in terms of the principles, in terms of are you self-employed or not, that doesn't change. There's no change in the legalities and the tests to see if someone is employed or self-employed. It's just the risk of getting it wrong shifts completely from that individual to the person that they are doing work for, the end client. So do have a look at some of my other videos on IR35, and particularly the cases where it's gone the other way and individuals have been caught. It's interesting to compare. If you like this video, do subscribe there, and I will see you soon.